Ras Al Khaimah didn't, had a beautiful natural
Yeah,
assets. It was an unknown
that's
emirate.
right.
This is where marketing creativity came in.
When we discussed your pivots, you said I began in hospitality, but then I moved into tourism. Explain to me the difference.
Hospitality is one part of the parcel of tourism.
Right.
The lifeline of tourism is the airline.
Mm-hmm.
To extend to that lifeline, you need the accommodation, which is the hotels. But then to actually make tourism effective, you need the experiences, whether it's gastronomy,
Mm-hmm.
food, whether it's tour,
Yeah.
whether it's tour, museums, attractions. So it's an ecosystem,
Mm.
and the hospitality is one
Is one
component.
part of it.
When we opened the Waldorf Astoria, part of Hilton, in Ras Al Khaimah,
Mm-hmm.
I met His Highness the Ruler at the opening event. And I still remember vividly that meeting. And I introduced myself, Haitham Mattar, and he pulled me back and said, "Where are you from?" I
Hmm.
said, "I'm from Lebanon." He said, "That's funny because we have Mattar in Ras Al Khaimah, a small village here called Digdaga, where they are known family
Hmm.
Mattar." And he called the guy called Abdullah Mattar, who was his driver. And he said to him, "Hey, your cousin is here."
How funny. There's also Matar in Libya.
There's Mattar
It's
everywhere
a it's a
across the
name
world.
across the region.
There's Mattar in Egypt.
In Egypt.
I always get stopped at your borders, by the way, at the immigration because there's a guy who has
Same
also
name
named
as
Haitham
you.
Mattar, but a different mother. So they keep always
They
asking me.
compare, yeah.
I always try to tease them and say, "Did you find the guy?" Yeah, they're looking for some Haitham Mattar, which is not me. That lunch, I sat
Mm,
next to His
mm,
Highness, and yeah, he is very curious. He loves education. He asked me about what school I went to. He asked me about my family,
mm.
my journey in the U.S., and he was intrigued by, the journey I had made in hospitality. I then had a call from a gentleman from his palace that was about a year or so later.
That long.
And I was asked to come meet His Highness, which I did.
You had something in mind, but it hadn't happened yet.
Yes. And His Highness, after a long conversation, asked me if I would head up his tourism board. Ras Al Khaimah didn't, had a beautiful natural
Yeah,
assets. It was an unknown
that's
emirate,
right.
beautiful beaches. Nobody talked
That's
about it.
right.
So this is where marketing creativity came in.
You're now an entrepreneur
Correct.
at this in this new role.
Absolutely.
You had been cocooned in a corporate world all your life, and now suddenly you're given this opportunity to create something from
Create a destination
exactly.
and put it on the world map. Credit goes to His Highness because he had that openness and he had
Yeah,
this entrepreneurship mind as well, where he allowed me to venture
yeah.
into places where I failed in some, I did well in others, but he was always supporting me to go ahead and
Mm.
do things. And every time I ran something by him to say I want to do this, he would sometimes warn me from his wisdom and
Yeah.
experience that maybe that it won't work, and sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it works. But he was never,
He would never say no outright.
yeah, he would always, look at everything, all the
Yes.
options.
And what year are we talking? When did this start?
This was in 2011.
And 11. Okay.
So I reached out to Emirates Airlines, to the tourism board, to help me,
Mm.
in starting to market Ras Al Khaimah through their channels and make that an extension of Dubai initially.
Yeah.
And we've had the marketing money to build packages where if you spend 2 nights in Dubai, you get another 2 nights in Ras Al
You know,
Khaimah.
that's how I know Ras Al Khaimah. I
Yeah,
know so many people in Dubai who go for weekends.
correct,
It's an easy destination, it's completely different.
correct.
So I always think of it as an extension.
It was what was even funny when you went to the gift shop in these hotels, they sold camels that said Dubai on it, and they sold little artifacts and stuff that said Burj Al Arab and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So of course it was an extension.
yeah, yeah.
But we wanted to build an identity for the
Mm,
destination.
mm,
We wanted to carve ourselves out and give it
mm,
its own right. So the team and I were looking at all these natural assets
mm.
and the proximity of the mountains to the sea, to the desert, and the fact that you could do so much around these. And yeah, how much beautiful nature was in Ras Al Khaimah, opposite the other emirates was really attractive.
Of
They
course.
had mountains, they had the highest mountain range that no one ever talked about.
Well, it also juxtaposed from Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which is so built up and commercial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we really just started to think, how can we
Mm,
play differently? And we thought, wait a minute, outdoor and adventure
mm.
is something no one is
Yeah.
playing in that space, and we want to own that space. So we started to look at what kind of adventure, and right then, what was really trending were zip lines.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to do zip lines, and then we started to search, and you find the longest zip line over water, the longest zip line in a city, the longest. We then ran across the longest zip line in the world,
Mm.
which was a Guinness record, and that was in Puerto Rico. So two of my team members and I
You
flew.
decided to beat it.
We wanted to go to Puerto Rico, and we wanted to do the zip line.
Mm.
So we did. And then we met the owners of the park, and we said, look, we want to build the
We
longest zip
want
line.
we want it even longer.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
want to build the longest zip line in the world. And they said, oh, we do it with you.
Yeah.
Great. And the reason we wanted that because A, they had the experience.
Yeah.
They design, build, and operate. They had zero incidents, zero
It's
accidents.
essential.
We invited them. They came in and we built the longest zip line in the world.
And is it over water?
It's the mountains.
Oh, it's between mountains.
Between mountains. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on top of the mountains, and it's a beautiful experience. And it was the first time ever I was on CNN.
Oh, really?
And every other channel you can think of,
Oh,
CNBC,
yeah.
BBC.
Yeah.
But the interesting part wasn't that I was on CNN. For me, it was Ras Al
Of
Khaimah
course.
on
It
CNN.
it put it on the map.
I then enrolled with the UNWTO
Mm-hmm.
in 2016. And in 2017, because I joined Ras Al Khaimah in 15, the UNWTO was launching something called the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
And me being in an emirate like that, where sustainability,
It's a core value.
core value,
Of course.
protecting culture, heritage, the zip line
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
in nature, the outdoor, the adventure. I wanted to be part of that. So the director general at the time, Dr. Talib Rifai, gave me the opportunity to be part of that steering committee
Mm.
of creating the sustainable development goals and launching these, which today we all live by.
Of course. That then led you to being noticed by Saudi Arabia.
That led me to be noticed by Saudi Arabia, where I actually met His Excellency Ahmed Al Khatib, the Minister of Tourism of Saudi Arabia, at one of the
I'm sure.
UNWTO
Of
conferences.
course. And at the time, the Saudis were already looking to 2030.
Yes,
It was already being formulated at
it was
that point.
right at its
At
infancy.
the inception.
I realized, look, I spent 5 years in Ras Al Khaimah. I've done a lot to put the destination on the map,
And it was on its way.
and it's on its way.
Yeah.
I always used to tell His Highness, what do we have in place today in Ras Al Khaimah is if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, your strategy, your execution, your team will continue. It's
in
not
place.
dependent on me as a person, right? And I think he valued that.
Well, that's what good leaders do.
Thank
Good
you.
leaders put things in place so that if you're not there, it's on autopilot.
It has
That
to run.
it has to be the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We made an agreement that I was going to join the Saudis. I had His Highness's blessing. It was a difficult discussion in the beginning, but what I enjoy today is that relationship with me and His Highness that still exists today.
That's very important to not burn bridges, to
Absolutely.
maintain
No.
relationships.
When I look back at the number of jobs I had
Yeah.
and where I moved,
Yeah.
I've never ever burned bridges.
Exactly.
And what helped me accelerate is the references you get from people you worked with
Absolutely.
before.
And it's a small world.
And it's a small world.
The hotel world, fundamentally, everyone knows each other.
When this opportunity came, and I spoke to His Excellency Ahmed Al Khatib, that this opportunity came with ISG, and I would love to take it. I remember his words. He said, "It's a sense of pride that one of us gets that job, and that just made me feel incredible."